Call Senator Cash.
Thank you. And my question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Today, Australians witnessed utterly vile footage of two nurses at Bankstown Hospital making despicable anti-Semitic death threats against Israeli patients, with one boasting, "You have no idea how many Israeli people come to this hospital. I send them to Jahannam. Jahannam is Arabic for hell." The other nurse declared that she wouldn't treat Israeli patients, saying, "I'll kill them." What has the Prime Minister done to ensure the safety of Jewish and Israeli patients across Australia, given the threats on their lives which have been made?
Thank you, Senator Cash. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Well, this video is disgusting. The footage is sickening and it is shameful, and the comments to which the senator refers are vile. The anti-Semitism has no place in this country. It has no place in our health system, and it is inconsistent. The comments are inconsistent with who we are, fly in the face of all that we are as a country which is welcoming of and respectful of people of all faiths and all cultural backgrounds. I am advised that these individuals have been stood down by New South Wales authorities, as they should have been. And they have been, I'm also advised they have been referred to the New South Wales Police for criminal investigation, as they should have been. And individuals found to have committed criminal anti-Semitic acts should face the full force of the law.
Minister Wong. Senator Cash.
It is a point of order on relevance. The question was in relation to what has the Prime Minister done to ensure the safety of Jewish and Israeli patients across Australia.
Senator Cash, the Minister is being directly relevant to your question.
On this, I would have hoped that response to this issue is above politics. That's certainly how we are approaching it. And the Prime Minister has made very clear statements. This matter has been dealt with in accordance with the appropriate procedures, which is they have been stood down by the New South Wales authorities, as they should have been.
Senator Cash, first supplementary.
Thank you. And I ask the Minister, has the Prime Minister called a National Cabinet on ensuring the safety of Jewish and Israeli patients across Australia?
Thank you, Senator Cash. Minister Wong.
The Prime Minister has previously engaged with states and has regularly engaged with states and territories about the issue of anti-Semitism. We know that anti-Semitism has been on the rise in this country. We know that Jewish Australians have been targeted. I've said in this place many times, people in this country have a right not only to be safe but also to feel safe. And we all have a role, as Mr Dreyfus so eloquently put it in the other place, to work together to stand up against hatred, against anti-Semitism and for the values that are central to who we are.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Cash.
Again, it's a point of order on relevance. The question went directly to, has the Prime Minister called a National Cabinet?
Thank you, Senator Cash. I will draw the Minister back to your question.
My recollection, as I said, is that the Prime Minister has previously and continues to engage with the states on these issues. I refer the Minister to the Prime Minister's public statements today and to the previous discussion about National Cabinet.
The time for responding has expired. Senator Cash, second supplementary.
Thank you. And given that there has been a wave of anti-Semitic hate in Australia since October 2023, with these vile threats being the latest horrific example, how does the Prime Minister propose to lead a nationally coordinated approach to ensure Jewish and Israeli patients can have confidence in our healthcare system?
Thank you, Senator Cash. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Can I just provide some information which I have now located in relation to some matters in the federal jurisdiction? There is a national. It's in response to the primary question. There is a national scheme for regulating safety and quality of health practitioners, including nurses. In the case of New South Wales, the relevant authority is the Healthcare Complaints Commission. Any adverse finding by that body will automatically flow through the National Registration Scheme. I can inform the Senate that the Secretary of New South Wales Royal Health has referred this matter to both the HCCC and informed
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Cash.
And again, it is a point of order in relation to relevance. All three questions directly went to the actions of the Prime Minister of Australia.
I believe the minister is being relevant. I'll continue to listen carefully. Minister.
To provide the senator with information about her first question, which I didn't have in front of me when I answered it. And what I'd say to Senator Cash is I am willing to work with anyone to stand up against anti-Semitism. I hope that is the case across the chamber.
Thank you, Minister Wong. Senator O'Neill.
Thank you, President. And my question is to the Minister for Finance, Senator Gallagher. Today in Merimbula, the Prime Minister announced the Albanese Labor government will work with the administrators of Regional Express Holdings, or REX as it's commonly known, as part of an upcoming competitive sale process to ensure crucial regional aviation services continue beyond the 30th of June 2025. As the duty senator for most of New South Wales, I'm delighted that the government will back regional aviation, just like we back regional telecommunications, because we know our great country towns deserve quality services and connectivity just like our cities. Can the minister please provide further details of today's important and I'm sure much welcomed announcement?
Thank you, Senator O'Neill. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator O'Neill for the question, and it was an important announcement today. Again, the Labor government standing up for regional communities, making sure that regional transport, including aviation services, are not reduced under this government. We believe in regional and remote communities and the fact that they deserve reliable, affordable and accessible air travel. Today we did announce, the Prime Minister, that we will support bidders in a second sale process for Rex Airlines to maximise the prospect of a successful sale. We have been clear that the Commonwealth is not a bidder in this process and want to see a successful market-led outcome, but this is an important signal to the market. We've been clear if there is no sale, we'll look at contingency options, including Commonwealth acquisitions. But because regional Australians deserve to know that we have their backs. And this announcement today, of course, builds on the announcement yesterday about ensuring regional services like banking are maintained in communities, and important announcements by the Minister for Infrastructure today about the upgrade of regional airports. Again, infrastructure that is essential not only for day-to-day air travel and transport, but also in times of emergencies. And we know those communities, Senator O'Neill, where you are the relevant senator, rely so much on being able to, at short notice, ship in supplies and support at times of national emergency. So we are very pleased to make these investments. Certainly the investments in airports are long overdue, and we believe, in terms of Rex, we need to send a very strong commitment to regional communities that we will maintain your air services despite Rex Airlines going through a difficult time.
Order across the chamber.
Go on.
Order. Senator Watt and Senator McKenzie. Order. Senator McKenzie, I particularly just called you to order. Point of order.
I would like Senator Watt to withdraw calling me his remarks about me. I've crossed the chamber over the last 2 minutes of exchange.
Thank you, Senator McKenzie. I'm more than happy to do that. But I also expect that when I personally call you to order, that I call your name, that you come to order. Senator Watt, please withdraw. Thank you. Senator O'Neill, first supplementary.
Thank you very much, President. And recently I was in Griffith, the home of Rex Airlines, and the community is very proud of that. But what support has been provided by the Albanese Labor government to date to support REX, and why is the government support for REX so important, particularly for regional Australia?
Thank you, Senator O'Neill. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator O'Neill for the question. The announcement today comes on top of the Albanese government providing a loan of up to $80 million to keep REX's vital regional routes operating until the 30th of June 2025, and also acquiring $50 million of debt from REX's largest creditor. And we've done that earlier this year to ensure that the airlines could continue to operate. These actions make it clear that the government's ongoing commitment to maintaining access to aviation services for regional and remote communities, and recognises the critical role of the REX network to local communities. And there does, President, seem to be a bit of a disagreement between the Liberals and the National Party about the approach to REX Airlines. We have Mr Littleproud saying all options should be on the table, and we have members of the Liberal Party, Senator Hume and Ms Lee, saying that it's, the government shouldn't own.
Order. Order. Particularly Senators Watt and McKenzie. If you can't sit in this chamber and show me respect, particularly when I name you, then please leave. Minister Gallagher. Senator O'Neill, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister, for that fulsome response and putting on the record Ms Lee's response. How will Australians benefit from securing this important regional transport infrastructure, and how would remote and regional communities be impacted if REX services were no longer available to the communities that absolutely rely on them?
Minister Gallagher.
Thank you very much, President. REX Airlines provides a vital service to regional Australia, a service that hundreds of thousands of regional Australians depend on. And I must say, listening to the media comments this morning from those opposite, we had Mr Littleproud saying he believes that everything needs to be on the table, and it seems that we had other members of the Liberal Party saying that we should never own an airline and criticising the investments that we've made to date to keep the airline flying. And so it does seem that there's a bit of a divide over there, in fact a significant division between the Liberal Party and the National Party. And who pays the price for that division? It's people in regional communities that depend on these airlines to ensure that they can travel around the country. We believe we're making the right decisions for REX, and we look forward to participating in the second sale process.
I'm going to remind all senators today, my apologies in advance to senators who haven't called out, but particularly those that I've named, of Standing Order 203. I am serious. If I call order, I expect you to come to order. I should not have to name you individually. Senator Bragg.
Thanks, President. I think we'll try again. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Now, yesterday, during question time, you'll recall that you said that 13,700 houses were, quote, in the pipeline under round one of the Housing Australia Future Fund. How many homes, I think you should listen to what the President just said, how many homes have been completed, under the Housing Australia Future Fund agenda?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator. Well, President, through you, I'd say to Senator Bragg two things. The first is I'd refer to my answer yesterday. And secondly, I was waiting for that. Secondly, Senator, can I just point out to you that probably if we had had the opportunity to have the Housing Australia Future Fund earlier, we would have seen a lot more progress, and that you were amongst the many people over there who did not want to progress that, and you still don't. So what I can say to you, Senator, is there are absolutely more houses to be built and being built by this government than would be if Mr Dutton were in power.
Nothing. Senator, I'll wait for order. Sorry, Senator Bragg. Order. Senator Bragg, first supplementary.
Well, given we couldn't get any more information on houses completed, how many homes in the pipeline, another one of your quotes from yesterday, have actually been completed?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, as I said yesterday, the government's committed $32 billion in new housing initiatives, including $6 billion in the most recent budget. I'm advised that 24,000 homes are in the pipeline through direct Commonwealth investment, including 13,700 under round one of the HAF.
Senator Bragg. Senator Cash.
A point of order in relation to relevance. I'm going to assume the minister doesn't know the difference between completed and pipeline.
Cash, just get to
People
the point of order.
can't live in a pipeline house.
Order. 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 Senator Cash, that would be defined really as a debating point, not a point of order. I'm going to ask the minister if she wishes to add further to her answer. Otherwise, I'll call Senator Bragg. Second supplementary.
President. Minister, will you now admit that the Housing Australia Future Fund is nothing but a pipe dream? And why won't the Prime Minister apologise? Why won't the Prime Minister apologise for his failure to deliver a solution that will provide more homes for Australians, as he promised?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, Labor will never apologise for investing in housing. Yeah, and unlike you, we actually believe government has a role in housing. You believe that the Commonwealth has no role in housing. So we have 24,000 homes in the pipeline, 13,700 under round one of the HAF, and those opposite complaining because they have a government that is investing in housing. You don't want, Senator Bragg, at least have the honesty to stand up and say the federal government should not invest in housing, because that is your policy. At least have the honesty to say to Australians, we don't believe that the federal government should help fund housing. That's your policy. Zero. Zero. You come in here and complain. Your policy is zero houses from the federal government. That is your policy, Senator Bragg. At least have the honesty to say to Australians, Peter Dutton's housing policy is no houses by a federal government.
Order. 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 It is not a competition to see which senators can yell more loudly than the person providing the answer. You either listen in silence or you leave the chamber. The disorder in this place is quite frankly disrespectful, and it's particularly disrespectful to me when I am calling you to order. Senator Cox.
Thank you, President. My question is to Minister McAllister, representing the Minister for the Environment. Australia has committed to achieving net zero by 2050, but it has no 2035 climate target. We are not on track due to our emissions, which has increased under this Labor government. Australia has been ravaged by floods, fire and extreme heat, at the same time destroying irreplaceable tangible and intangible cultural heritage, all in the name of the bottom line for projects like Woodside's North West Shelf project. Labor has approved 30 new climate-wrecking coal and gas projects, 30 in fact, and there is an impending World Heritage application for Murujuga on the Burrup Peninsula. Why is this government speaking out of both sides of its mouths on protecting the environment and allowing emissions at the Woodside gas plant to accelerate and destroy the precious rock art at Murujuga?
Thank you, Senator Cox. Minister McAllister.
Well, thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Cox, for a wide-ranging question, which I think, in fact, ranges across issues that are covered by Minister Bowen as well as by Minister Plibersek. I think you asked me that question in my capacity as the Minister representing Minister Plibersek, and I'll do my best to provide answers to that extent, and also anything I have relevant to Mr Bowen's portfolio. Perhaps we can start with the questions you put about proposals before the minister in relation to Murujuga. As I think your question implies, you're aware that there are decisions before Minister Plibersek at this time. It's not possible to comment on the specifics of those proposed projects prior to that decision being made, and it is not wise to do so. I note that Ms Plibersek is the legal decision-maker in relation to those, and she also is the legal decision-maker for a Section 10 application that's been made under the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Heritage Protection Act. More generally, the government is strongly committed to protecting the Murujuga cultural landscape. I think you know, Senator, that it's a place of immense cultural and spiritual significance. It embodies thousands of years of continuous culture and practice, and the petroglyph collection there holds stories and traditions that span for more than 50,000 years. The government was proud to nominate the Murujuga cultural landscape for inclusion on the World Heritage List in partnership with the West Australian Government and the Murujuga Aboriginal Corporation. World Heritage listing can provide the highest global protection of this landscape, but it requires strong agreements in place to ensure the ongoing conservation of this precious place. And the Commonwealth provided $2 million to the Murujuga Aboriginal Corporation to develop and manage.
Senator Cox, first supplementary.
This Labor government has signed on the 29th of February 2024 a statement of intent for Murujuga, and just last week released your own department's First Nations strategy. I want to acknowledge the traditional owners that are here today from Murujuga, from Nararanga, and to ask why the minister has not replied to them. In 3 years, that application for Section 10 has been sitting on her desk that was lodged by First Nations women, asking them, begging them to protect their cultural places. Why won't the minister answer?
Thank you, Senator Cox. Minister McAllister.
Thank you, President. And Senator Cox, thank you for drawing my attention to the visitors in the chamber. You are most welcome. It's very good to see you here today. I will seek any information that I can find from Minister Plibersek about the question you raised, Senator Cox, but I can say to you that the government is deeply aware of the significance of Murujuga to traditional owners and more generally to the Australian public, because, as I indicated in my answer to your primary question, this is a place with immense cultural and spiritual significance. It's why we're pursuing World Heritage listing. It's why we are partnering with the Murujuga Aboriginal Corporation to develop a new management agreement with all levels of government and with industry who are operating in that area. The government will continue to take these issues seriously and to deal with them in a sensible way.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Cox, second supplementary.
With the gas prices and the cost of living crisis going up, particularly in Western Australia, and 80% of Woodside's gas going overseas for export, not for domestic use, to help bring the relief to particularly to Western Australians, will the Labor government listen to the traditional owners and other Australians who have asked the minister to reject the 50-year extension of Woodside's North West Shelf project, break your state capture, protect the precious rock art that is there and surrounding Noora and its connection to the oldest continuing living culture in the world? The time to act is now.
Thank you, Senator Cox. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President. Well, I indicated in my answer to the primary question that I'm not in a position to provide comment about specific matters that are before the minister at this point in time. She is the legal decision-maker. It is not wise or sensible to make comment about those decisions or the specifics of those decisions in advance of them. I do make the point, Senator Cox, that this government is deeply committed to both climate action and addressing some of the unattended issues in relation to cultural heritage, both policy areas that were essentially ignored in the previous decade of coalition government. We have placed our climate change commitments in law. We have made a series of very important decisions in relation to protecting our natural environment, and we are determined to work with First Nations people to protect their cultural heritage.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Grogan.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. The people of our home state of South Australia, who have suffered from a wasted decade on housing under the former Liberal government. Thank you for your introduction, Senator Ruston. I know that it's quite problematic listening to the realities of what lack of housing policy you had for 10 years has done to this country.
Order.
But my question to Senator Wong, is how is the Albanese Labor government making it easier for young Australians with a student debt to buy their home sooner?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Grogan for her question, and she knows so well, from not only being a senator but from her professional history, how important housing is and how tough it is, particularly for young people, to enter the housing market. We know that because of the failures of the Liberal and Nationals during their time in government, it has been so difficult for young Australians to get into the housing market. And before today, one of the barriers they face, especially for those with help debts, is the reluctance of banks to give them a mortgage. And I'm very pleased to update the Senate on common sense arrangements, changes the Albanese government has announced today that would help even more Australians buy a home sooner. I hope, Senator Henderson, you might listen, because surely you would want more Australians to buy a home sooner. The government has been engaging with regulators and banks, and financial regulators have agreed to update their guidance to make it easier for students, Australians with a student debt, to responsibly take out a mortgage and buy a home. Now, you would have thought those opposite would think this is a good thing. More people buying homes, helping more people into homes may not be Peter Dutton's priority, but it is one of the Albanese government's highest priorities. We have also asked APRA to update and clarify its regulatory guidance to help unlock the construction of more units. Now, housing is one of our priorities, which is why we have a Homes for Australian plan, which includes the biggest home-building program of any government in history, delivering 1.2 million homes by the end of the decade. Now, Mr Dutton's cut to housing would mean fewer homes, when what Australians actually need is more homes. Australians know they can't trust the same people who created the housing crisis to fix it. Australians will be worse off under Mr Dutton.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Grogan, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. We know that one of the most important factors in housing affordability is the supply of housing. Can you step through for us how the Albanese government is boosting housing supply now and ensuring Australia has the workforce to continue to building homes into the future?
Thank you, Senator Grogan. Minister Wong.
Thank you, Senator Grogan. You're right that after a wasted decade, we do need to urgently boost housing supply, which is why we are building more homes more quickly in more parts of the country. That is why we are training more tradies, funding more apprenticeships, growing the construction workforce. This is why we are kick-starting construction by cutting red tape and providing incentives to state governments to get homes built faster. And we are delivering the largest investment in social housing in more than a decade to help reduce homelessness. Getting over 1 million homes built by the end of the decade won't happen overnight, but it will not happen at all if the Liberals are let back in charge. The reality is Mr Dutton and those opposite would rather fund bosses' long lunches than build homes for young Australians.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Grogan will ask her second supplementary in silence. Senator Grogan.
Thank you, President. That's really great to hear all of those excellent policies, Minister. There have been reckless calls, however, to allow Australians to raid their superannuation for a housing deposit, which would only make homes more expensive and reduce retirement incomes. Why is the Albanese government—
Please resume your seat. I'm not sure which part of she will ask her question in silence senators on my left particularly didn't understand. Senator Grogan.
Thank you, President. Minister, why is the Albanese government focused on an ambitious housing agenda, and why has the government taken this approach?
Minister Wong.
We have an ambitious housing agenda through you, President, because we want to fix the Liberal-made housing shortage. the Liberal-made housing shortage. And in addition to building 1.2 million new homes and the announcement we have made today, we are supporting first home buyers with the First Home Guarantee, the Regional First Home Buyer Guarantee and the Family Home Guarantee. And we've introduced the Help to Buy scheme to help 40,000 low and middle income households purchase a home of their own. We've strengthened renters' rights across Australia, we've increased rent assistance and we're building more social and affordable rental homes. And we have clear plans, credible plans, costed and coherent plans to build a better future for the country. Now, the only policy those opposite seem to have for first home buyers is to say Ranger Super, which will drive up prices, does nothing for supply, drives up prices and leaves people worse in the long run. You want people to sacrifice retirement savings. We want people to buy a home and save for the future.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson.
Thank you very much. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Immigration, Senator Watt. Minister, the Department of Home Affairs has confirmed that over 75,000 unlawful non-citizens remain in Australia, undermining national security, driving down wages and adding pressure to housing and public services. Why has the Albanese Labor government failed to deport them and enforce our immigration laws?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Hanson. I'm not sure what the source of that information is, but every day the Department of Home Affairs takes action to remove from Australia people who have overstayed their visas. Of course, this government has made significant efforts to tackle the large immigration that we have seen into Australia since COVID. We attempted last year to pass legislation to limit the number of international students in our universities, but of course that legislation was voted against by the Coalition and, I think I'm right in saying, by One Nation. So when we have made attempts to limit immigration in a way that the Australian community is seeking, that's been blocked or opposed by the very parties who are now asking questions about these issues. Of course, as Senator Ayres has flagged, there is someone seeking election to the highest office in the land while also making secret promises behind closed doors to bring back visas for billionaires from overseas, and his name is Mr Peter Dutton. Mr Peter Dutton likes to go around pretending that he's tough on immigration while also boasting, as he recently did, of having allowed more people into Australia than any other immigration minister in Australia's history. Let's take it a lot in perspective when it comes to what different parties are saying around migration.
Order.
Some like to complain and miss the opportunity to vote for legislation designed to put some reasonable limits around immigration. Perhaps next time the government seeks to do something around immigration levels, Senator Hanson and her friends in the Coalition might decide to support what we're doing.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Hanson, first supplementary.
Minister, under your party, you've brought in 1.4 million visa holders into Australia. These visa loopholes, under Labor, visa loopholes are being exploited. Foreign workers are taking Australian jobs for lower wages and benefits, and deportations are being stalled by endless legal appeals. When will your government stop bending over backwards to accommodate migrant workers and activists, lawyers, and start standing up for Australian jobs and wages?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Senator Hanson, thank you very much, Senator Hanson. Well, I wish I had more than 58 seconds to respond. So, first of all, as I've already said, our government, as has occurred under both sides of politics, takes action every day to remove people from Australia who are not entitled to stay here. Also, our government has attempted to put limits around migration, which you voted against. You voted against only last year, which Senator Hanson and Senator Roberts voted against only last year when they had an opportunity to work with us to put those limits around migration. You ask about wages? Seriously? Ever since Senator Hanson entered this parliament around the same time as me, she has voted against every move the Labor Party has taken to lift wages in this country. And you have the hide to come into this chamber and ask what we're doing about wages. This goes back well before we were in government. When we were trying to change the law in opposition, you voted with Senator Cash and the Liberal Party to stop coal miners getting the pay that they were entitled to. When we tried to fix the same job, same pay laws,
thank you, Minister
did it in
Watt.
opposition and you've done it since we've been in government.
Has expired.
Seriously.
Senator Watt, I do remind you to direct your answers to me. Senator Hanson, second supplementary.
Minister,
Senator Thorpe,
it's been reported
order.
in The Australian the Prime Minister recently attended a private dinner in Toorak where he dined alongside a wealthy international education operator whose college was shut down for significant non-compliance.
Why is Prime Minister... please resume your seat. Order. Senator Whish-Wilson, order. Senator Whish-Wilson and Senator Thorpe, I remind both of you of 203. Senator Thorpe, I will draw to your attention the Standing Order 203, particularly those parts about senators refusing to confirm to the orders and disregarding the authority of the chair. Senator Thorpe, come to order. Senator Hanson, I am going to invite you to put your question again. I think you had only just started it. If you wouldn't mind, we'll reset the clock and if you re-put the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister, it's been reported in The Australian the Prime Minister recently attended a private dinner in Toorak where he dined alongside a wealthy international education operator whose college was shut down for significant non-compliance. Why is Prime Minister Albanese rubbing shoulders with individuals from the scandal-ridden student visa sector instead of taking real action to crack down on scam visa mills and rorts that are flooding Australia with cheap labour and fake students?
Thank you, Senator Hanson. Minister Watt.
Thank you, Senator Hanson, and it's great to see you back in Australia, having had lunch yourself with your donor, Gina Reinhardt, in Thailand. Various people choose various people to hang out with, whether it be here in Australia or overseas.
Order.
Now, Senator Hanson, your own question is answered by what you've asked. The report referred to a function that the Prime Minister attended that turned out to be a function with a group that we are actually taking enforcement action against. So there can be no suggestion that the Prime Minister or anyone else in our government has gone soft on anyone. No government has done more to crack down on dodgy international education providers than the Albanese government has done. I think the person who's got some explaining to do is Mr Dutton. Mr Dutton's got some explaining to do about why he's saying he wants to bring back the golden ticket visa that was discredited and got rid of because it was prone to fraud. It was open to bringing in spies and criminals. Maybe you should talk to your friend Mr Dutton, Senator Hanson.
Senator Ruston.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health. Minister, the GP bulk billing rate was 86% in December 2019 before the COVID-19 pandemic. What is the bulk billing rate now?
Thank you, Senator Ruston. Minister Gallagher. Oh, no,
Minister
sorry.
McCarthy.
Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Ruston. Good to see the interest in health, and certainly interested to know more about your position with Medicare. But there is certainly no higher priority, President, for this government in the health portfolio than strengthening Medicare and rebuilding general practice. After 9 years of cuts and neglect by the former government, primary care was in the worst shape it has been in 40 years, and bulk billing rates were in free fall. The former government froze the Medicare rebate for 6 years, ripping billions of dollars out of primary care and causing
Minister,
gap
please
fees.
Senator Ruston.
President, point of order on relevance. My question was very, very tight. It was in relation to what the bulk billing rate is today. I'd ask you if you could bring the minister's attention back to my question.
The first part of your question went to bulk billing rates before COVID. I believe the minister is being relevant. I will continue listening carefully. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, President. In the 2024-25 budget and 2024-25 MyEFO, the government provided $34.8 million over 2 years for the General
Minister
Practice
McCarthy,
Incentive
please
Fund.
resume your seat. Senator Cash.
Yeah, sorry, President, and it is a point of order on relevance. A little like the housing question, our questions are drafted quite specifically.
Senator
We're
Cash,
asking
you need to
for
just get to the point of order.
figures. The question says the bulk billing rate, what is it now?
Yes, Senator Cash, and as I just explained to Senator Ruston, it also included, it made reference to rates before COVID. Minister Wong.
Thank you. President, I'd also submit to you that policy which is relevant, which is about addressing bulk billing rates, is entirely relevant to the answer. I know that the coalition may not like the fact that we are actually working to lift bulk billing, but the minister is going directly to policies that is about bulk billing.
Minister Wong. As I said to Senator Ruston, Senator Cash, on the same point of order, the minister is being relevant. I'll continue to listen carefully. Minister.
Well, thank you, President. Well, we've tripled the investment, Senator Ruston. We've seen a turnaround in bulk billing, a national increase, if you'd let me finish,
Order.
A national increase of 1.9 percentage points in the 14
Minister
months.
McAllister, Minister McCarthy, please resume your seat. I have Senator Wong on her feet.
Ask if the Leader of the Opposition in the Senate could come to order.
I would like everyone in the chamber to come to order, particularly those on my left. Minister McCarthy, please continue.
Well, as I was saying, I mean, we have tripled the investment and it's 77.5%, President.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ruston, first supplementary.
I thank the senator for eventually answering the question. So, yes, there's the bulk billing rate that was announced.
Senator Ruston, please resume your seat. Order. Order on my right. Order and left. Senator Cash. Order. Order. Senator Cash, come to order. Order. Senator Ayres. Order. Senator Ruston has the right to have her question asked. Senators, in silence. I expect there to be silence as Senator Ruston continues with her question. Senator Ruston.
Thank you very much, President. Well, correct. The minister yesterday announced that the GP bulk billing rate had increased to 77.5%. Can you confirm that the bulk billing rate in March was actually 77.7%?
Thank you, Senator Ruston. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. And this from a shadow opposition health who didn't want and didn't believe that Medicare was sustainable, right. President. I'm not too sure, but what I can confirm to the Senate was 6 months before the last election, the financial viability of general practice was in serious trouble after the Coalition's 6-year freeze on Medicare rebates that started when Peter Dutton was Health Minister.
Order. Order. Senator Ruston for second supplementary.
And just for the record, in the time frame the minister was referring, the bulk billing rate was 88% to the time she was referring to. But right now, Australians—
Senator Ruston, please resume your seat. Order. Order. I have requested of this chamber at least 3 times today that senators will ask their question in silence. I don't want to have to keep saying that. Senator Ruston, please continue.
Australians are paying ever-increasing out-of-pocket costs when they visit their doctor. Can you confirm that the average out-of-pocket cost when you see your doctor today is now $44.89?
Thank you, Senator Ruston. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. I can confirm to the Senate that this side of the Senate is very much interested in pushing for further GPs across the country, improving Medicare, unlike those opposite who had nothing to do with it but wanting to freeze it and don't care about the health of Australians in spite of the numbers that they wish to put forward here today.
Thank you. Senator Thorpe.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Health. Is that Gallagher or McCarthy?
It's Senator McCarthy.
Thank you. At a recent community visit and public hearing, the PFAS Select Committee heard about the devastating impacts of PFAS chemicals on health, country and the loss of culture. Wreck Bay, a First Nations community on the New South Wales south coast, is experiencing a cancer cluster, and people are dying prematurely at the highest rates in this country. They have no routine health or cancer screening, and they are still drinking PFAS-contaminated water. The government has provided absolutely no health support to the community so far. Will you commit to provide regular, free health checks, including cancer screening, for the Wreck Bay community?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister McCarthy.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Thorpe for the question and the work that she is doing in terms of the Senate inquiry. I'm advised that these latest reports are certainly very concerning in regards to the reports that we're seeing, not just with Wreck Bay, with where the inquiry's gone, but also in places like where I reside, up in the Northern Territory as well. Can I just say, Senator Thorpe, that in terms of the Minister for Health, the NHMRC is currently conducting an independent review of the Australian Drinking Water Guidelines, and at the government's request, the NHMRC has agreed to expedite the review and will finalise it in early this year. A Senate Select Committee, as you've already identified, is already out there. Australian drinking water is regularly monitored for the presence of chemicals, including PFAS, to ensure those are within the limits assessed as safe by Australian regulators. I'm advised too that the NHMRC is currently conducting that review, and the independent review will consider recent guidance and reviews from international and national jurisdictions and determine whether they're suitable to adopt or adapt for Australia.
Senator Thorpe, first supplementary.
I visited this community, Minister, and met a 12-year-old who had half her breast cut off. My question is, will you provide cancer screening for the Wreck Bay community before any more children die from cancer relating to PFAS?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister McCarthy.
Well, I can certainly say, Senator, that in terms of cancer care more broadly across Australia, and in particular for First Nations Australians, we do have a very strong cancer care program. So for those families in Wreck Bay, they are very much able to
Minister,
access—
please resume your seat.
Sorry.
Senator Thorpe.
Relevance. Will the Wreck Bay community have cancer screening before any more people die?
The Minister is being relevant to your question, and I'll invite her to continue.
Yeah. Look, President, can I just say, Senator Thorpe, and I realise you're speaking specifically about individual cases, but I will say to all Australians and First Nations people that there is a very strong cancer support program, especially through First Nations, and I'm more than happy to provide that information to your office.
Senator Thorpe.
It doesn't matter whether it's Wreck Bay or anyone else. Any First Nations person who is suffering from cancer, we have invested a significant amount, and I'm more than happy to provide that information.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Thorpe, second supplementary.
Disappointing. Will your government commit to provide at least free PFAS blood testing to only the Wreck Bay community?
Thank you, Senator Thorpe. Minister McCarthy.
Senator Thorpe, I'm advised that the Department of Health and Aged Care does not recommend blood testing. This is because results cannot be used to determine whether any medical condition is attributable to exposure to PFAS in terms of Defence offering blood testing for communities impacted by PFAS. Yep.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Polley.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Employment, Workplace Relations, Minister Watt. Today marks 1 year since the second tranche of the Albanese Labor government's closing loopholes legislation passed the parliament. These reforms built on the same job, same pay legislation and contain stronger protections for gig workers, ends unpaid overtime with a right to disconnect and provides more job security for casual workers. Minister, why is closing loopholes in our workplace relations system so important? And how are the Albanese Labor government's policies helping Australian workers earn more and keep more of what they earn?
Thank you, Senator Polley. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Polley. And I know Senator Polley was very happy to join a whole heap of workers, along with many other colleagues this morning, to acknowledge and celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the second closing loopholes bill being passed through this parliament. And of course, that piece of legislation passed by the Albanese government has given workers better work-life balance, more job security and improved workplace conditions. The second tranche of our closing loopholes legislation, which is now 1 year old, introduced a right to disconnect for eligible workers when they are not working or being paid, setting new minimum pay and other standards for workers in the gig economy and the road transport industry, and also provided a fairer definition of casual employees, enabling more casual workers to convert to permanent employment. And in fact, Senator O'Neill and I were talking with one of the workers this morning who not only has been able to convert to permanency, but that has enabled him and other colleagues to be able to go to the bank and get a home loan for the first time. That's the kind of difference it's making to people. But of course, these reforms are now at risk from Mr Dutton and the Coalition, because of course they voted against them, just as they voted against every single one of our workplace law changes that are delivering higher wages and better jobs for Australians, while also voting against every measure we've taken to provide cost of living relief. And now, as we approach the next election, they've already confirmed that they will repeal the right to disconnect and our protections for casual workers, and they've flagged further attacks to workers and wages and conditions by promising a targeted set of repeals of our workplace laws. And we know they will follow through in doing that, because every time they've ever been in government, the Coalition has gone out of its way to cut workers' wages, to cut their conditions, to serve their big business mates. And as I say, not only did they do that last time they were in government, when they boasted about keeping wages deliberately low, but they voted against every change we've made to try and turn wages around for Australian workers.
Has expired. Senator Polley, first supplementary.
This morning I met Martin Nabin, a teacher and gig worker, to celebrate the passage of the Closing the Loopholes legislation. Martin and Nabin told me they were worried about the possibility of Mr Dutton and the Coalition tearing away protections in the Closing the Loophole legislation. Minister, why is it so important to protect the rights the Closing the Loopholes legislation has given Australian workers?
Thank you, Senator Polley. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Polley. The fact is that Australian workers, like those you met this morning, a teacher named Martin and a gig worker named Nabin, will be worse off under Peter Dutton, and they actually made that point this morning when we met with them. And whether it's teachers like Martin being paid for the actual workers he works through the right to disconnect, which this lot want to get rid of, or gig workers like Nabin being able to access minimum rates of pay, which this lot voted against, our changes are putting more money into the pockets of working people at a time that they need that help. And while we're changing the law to lift Australians' wages, the Coalition are focused on finding things to cut, of course, so they can pay for hot dogs for top dogs, long lunches for bosses, taxpayer-funded lunches. That's what you lot are about, not about helping pay wages for Australians. Just last night we had the member for Petrie on Sky boasting about their plan to cut free TAFE, making training more expensive and students worse off. And I guess they've got to find that money from somewhere to pay $10 billion for taxpayer-funded long lunch for your big business mates.
Senator Polley, second supplementary.
I note that Mr Dutton and the Liberals have proudly stated that we will always stand with employers of Australia and have promised a package of targeted repeals at the next election. Minister, how is the Albanese Labor government standing with Australian workers to make sure that more money is in their pockets, and what are the key challenges to helping more Australians into well-paid and secure jobs, which is what they need?
Thank you, Senator Polley. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Polley. I'll take some of the interjections from Senator Hume and Senator McGrath while you were asking your question, Senator Polley, because they were trying to make the argument that if you go after employers, you don't have jobs. Well, the problem is, with their argument, is that not only has our government lifted wages, but more jobs have been created in this parliamentary term than in Australian history. And 4 out of 5 of those jobs have been in the private sector. So your problem is that your whole argument is not backed up by a single fact. Under the Albanese government, because of the changes we've made, wages are up, jobs are up, inflation is down, industrial action is down and productivity is going up. Now, that's what a Labor government has done through our workplace laws, and you want to rip that all away because you want workers' wages to go backwards, you want unemployment to rise because you don't care about working people. None of you come and ever meet with workers like Martin and Nabeen and Rosemary, a retail worker, and hear about the difference those wages are making to their lives. You want to look after big business. We're looking after workers.
Senator Rennick.
My question is to the Minister representing the Attorney-General, Senator Watt. The Minister for Sport has thrown her support behind Sam Kerr, the captain of the Matildas, even though body cam footage presented as evidence in court showed Kerr calling a British police officer stupid and white. Why does the Labor Party support people who use racial speech in that manner? And would Sam Kerr be jailed under the hate speech mandatory sentencing laws if she was to behave that way in Australia?
Thank you, Senator Rennick. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Rennick. Well, of course, I did notice that overnight Sam Kerr was actually cleared of the charges against her. So I'm not going to stand in the way of a British court and a British jury making a decision that she was not guilty of the criminal offence that she was charged with. You asked the broader question about hate speech, and our government is proud of the fact that we've taken serious action to restrict hate speech at a time in Australia where we are seeing too much division in the community, and we are seeing anti-Semitic attacks take place, we are seeing Islamophobic attacks take place, and we are seeing a range of other racial slurs meted out against members of our community, and that should not happen. Now, I'm surprised that the opposition I'm surprised that the opposition wants to contest the fact that we've taken this action, because only last week they voted with us to pass that legislation. Now, the reality is that in Australia's laws, we have always had a number of restrictions on freedom of speech within Australia. We've got defamation laws, which prevent people from going out there and saying defamatory things about people. We've got laws around the contempt of court, which also restrict people's—
Minister Watt, please resume your seat. Senator Rennick.
So, thanks, Chair. So, would that particular comment be considered hate speech under the crime laws?
Sorry, Senator. Was it a point of order? Okay, so the minister is being— Thank you. The minister is being directly relevant to your question. Minister Watt.
Thanks, Senator Rennick. Obviously, I'm not going to be offering a legal opinion on whether the actions of an individual person breach Australian laws. What we're here to do is to set those laws and to let the courts then interpret them. But as I was saying, there have always been restrictions on freedom of speech in our country: defamation, contempt of court, and of course a really important one that's been there for quite a long time is Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. And it wasn't that long ago that people like Senator Patterson and Senator Cash were trying to abolish Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act because they wanted to open the floodgates to racial vilification and all sorts of other hate speech, and it was the Labor Party who stood against that, just as it's been the Labor Party in government that has passed further laws about hate speech. So we will protect people from unlawful behaviour like that into the future.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Rennick, first supplementary.
Throughout the COVID management, thousands of Australians injured by the vaccine were vilified and gaslighted by politicians, the media, medical professionals and employers as anti-vaxxers. Many of those injured by the COVID vaccine were even forced to get additional shots, causing more harm. Would people who mandate the use of vaccines on people who are clearly allergic to them be arrested under the hate crime laws for inciting violence?
Senator Rennick, I am advised that parts of that question don't adhere to the standing orders because you can't ask ministers for legal opinions, but I'll invite the minister to answer the pieces of the question that are relevant. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Rennick. Again, I'm not going to offer a legal opinion on whether someone's behaviour breaches the laws that this parliament has passed. But I guess the point I've been making is that we live in a democracy, we do value freedom of speech, but we also recognise that there are limits around what people should be able to say out of consideration for other members of the community. The robust expression of diverse opinions is an important feature of our democracy, and the bill that we passed last week on hate crimes respected the need for vibrant public debate. The offences in that bill were carefully crafted to target only the most serious forms of harmful hate speech, namely the promotion or threat of violent conduct. The offences are not intended to criminalise mere expressions of belief or opinion, however unpleasant they may be. The offences in the bill apply only where a person's communication or other conduct could result in violence or force against groups or members of such groups.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Rennick, second supplementary.
Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure if this is going to breach standing orders as well, but I'll ask it and see how we go. Will the Labor Party consider the comments made by the two nurses in the recently video today be considered in contravention of federal hate crime laws or just state laws? And if New South Wales doesn't press charges, would the Labor government recommend or consider that the hate crime laws would apply in this case?
Thank you, Senator Rennick. Minister Watt.
Thanks, President, and thanks, Senator Rennick. Again, I'm not going to offer an opinion on that specific case, but I'll reinforce the comments that the Prime Minister has made, the Senate Leader has made, that the statements of those individuals are absolutely disgusting. They deserve to be called out, and I'm really pleased to see that that has occurred from a variety of political leaders on all sides of the aisle. That's what deserved to happen, and the disciplinary action that's being taken against those individuals is thoroughly deserved as well. Again, not going to comment on whether their behaviour challenges the law or goes against the law. I am advised, in addition, that the Prime Minister has spoken with the AFP Commissioner about this incident and that the AFP have made clear they're available to provide their full support to the New South Wales Police. Of course, that's now a matter for the police to investigate, so probably the less I say about it, the better.
Thank you, Minister Wong.
I ask that further questions be placed on notice.
Yes.